All right. Well, thank you. This is the first time I've ever tried to do one of these meetings at lunchtime. I'm going to try to do it in an hour. Again, just, trying something new this year, seeing what fits, what people might like, what might be kind of cool to do on a semi-regular basis. Um, but let's get into it. We only got an hour, so I don't want to waste any time jibber jabbering. So let's talk first thing about, let me look at my little list here of subjects to cover. And the first thing I want to cover is the Adobe Terms of Service. Now, well, actually, I should say, first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for stopping by and spending your lunchtime if you're on the West Coast or whatever time it is, wherever you're joining us from. I wanted to talk about the Adobe Terms of Service. So there's been a lot of controversy about this, and if you have questions, I will happily answer and tell you what I know and what I understand to the best of my ability. So for those of you who don't know, a few weeks ago, Adobe released their new terms of service. The terms of service agreement, TOS, we'll call it for short, was clearly written by lawyers who knew nothing about creativity and what we do, and were just awful, just terrible. And so there was a huge backlash online, and I and a bunch of other people had talked to Adobe about this, and they got our feedback and said, hey, we know this is kind of a mess. We want to get your input on how we should frame things and, better ways to do this. And so I know they listened to a ton of different creatives, and they released a new set of terms of service on the 18th of this month, which was last week. Now, the terms of service, I don't believe really changed. They were just more clarified and written in a way that was much more easy for people to understand and applicable to where we are today. So the bottom line is that Adobe, there was a lot. One of the points that people were bringing up was that Adobe had access to your footage on your system, which is completely not true. They don't have access to the footage on your system. The Adobe employees can't look at what's on your internal hard drives. So just know that. If they did, when you had problems and they said, hey, that sounds like a problem, can you send us some sample footage? They wouldn't need to ask that, because if it was true they had access to it, they could just access it, but they don't. So now there is a weird thing in there, because Adobe does have to ask for permission to have access to your footage on your local drives. The reason being is that you need to give them permission in the apps to run Premiere or Photoshop or whatever. It needs to be able to access your footage, your pictures, your media, whatever it is that you're trying to work on. So there is a permission that's requested for that, but that's the extent of it. They can't scan your drives and look at your footage and look for things there. They can just look at your footage in the use of the software from them that you're using. Okay. So that's one point. There was another thing about them, that they're training their AI on your footage, which is not true. They are now, I will add a caveat to that in a second, but they, do not use your footage in a way, shape, or form to train their AI stuff. Now, if you are a part of Adobe Stock, which is their stock footage program, then yes, part of the terms of service on that is that you agree to let them, train AI on that stock footage, and you are compensated for that. Now, there is an argument about whether that compensation is fair or not. You know, I'm not on Adobe Stock, and you can take it up with Adobe. If you don't like the way you're compensated for that, I would say take your footage off of Adobe Stock. I think the stock footage conversation and how that works is a whole nother ball of wax that I'm not going to get into. But but just know that if you're not using Adobe Stock, anything that you are doing with Adobe that involves AI and their new AI technology, it's not being trained on there. Let's see. There was one other point that just totally went out of my head here of, and I can't remember what it is, but it's owning your footage. That's what it is. So there was something where there was a confusion that Adobe would somehow own your footage. And I'm actually getting ready to edit a short film. And the director emailed me and said, hey, I've heard about this terms of service craziness. I don't know if I want my film cut in Premiere. I own my footage. Adobe doesn't own my footage. And again, total poorly written the first time, corrected in the new version. Adobe does not own your footage. They can't use your footage for any sort of anything that they want to use it for. You own your footage. It belongs to you, and Adobe has no rights to it beyond what you give them. Now, you do give them certain rights through there to do things with your projects. For instance, in Premiere, you can upload things to YouTube when you're done. And I've used this footage. I think a lot of people use use this feature. A lot of people have used it. You have to give them permission to give them permission to use your footage or your clip, your video project, and send it to YouTube. You have to give them permission of that, and then YouTube has permission to access it and all that kind of stuff. So there are times where you are giving them permission to do things with your footage, but it's only at your discretion. You're telling them, I want you to upload this to YouTube. I want you to upload this to Facebook, those kind of things. Beyond that, Adobe has no rights to your footage. It's all yours. So, there was a question about derivative works and creating derivative works. Well, that's in there because there are times where Adobe needs to make a duplicate of your file, media, whatever it is, in the purpose of doing what you want to do in that software. And that's where that comes in. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll open it up to any quick questions before we move on, is scanning footage up to the Creative Cloud. So if you upload footage, pictures, any kind of media to a Creative Cloud storage, yes, it gets scanned by technology to look for child abuse stuff. Lots of other services do this. Dropbox, name your storage, Google, Microsoft Cloud, or whatever the OneDrive is. They all sort of scan for this stuff. And if there's something that's picked up in that, then a person would look at it and say, oh, hey, this is bad and we need to do something about it, or it's nothing and we need to move on. So that does happen. If you are working with NDA type stuff that can't ever be seen, that, could be questionable, I would say don't upload it to the cloud. Find some other way to upload that or share that. But that is something that it's not Adobe specific. Lots of other companies do that, and it's done for particular reasons. So, I think that kind of encompasses everything, involved in it. I guess my personal feeling on this when it first hit was that this is much ado about nothing. And listen, I guess I have a little bit more of a relationship with Adobe than a lot of other people do. And so I've talked to a lot of people there, so I have a little bit more trust in them. I get that some people don't trust big corporations. A lot of big corporations I don't trust. So I totally understand that. And if you don't trust them still at this point, then you know what? That's on you, and I'm not going to fault you for it. But in the conversations I've had with them and in reading through things myself, I take them at their word and trust in them that they're not doing anything nefarious here. Now, I say that, and I'm sure someone's going to bring up the lawsuit that the DOJ is just starting with them about the cancellation policy, and I will say that I would agree with the fact that the cancellation policy that Adobe has is pretty bad, and that's a whole nother conversation. And I have told them such. It is a nightmare, and they need to fix that. And I'm sad to see that it's the DOJ that's forcing them to do that. But again, whole nother conversation. But back to terms of service. So if there are any questions, if anybody has anything they'd like to ask, I will do my best to answer that. Just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask away, or put it in the chat.
When you talk about uploading, what does that imply with Frame.io?
Frame.io would count. So anything that you are uploading to Frame.io would be looked at as part of that same scanning, looking for child abuse type stuff. But Frame.io is very secure. I know they have done a bunch of stuff to make it secure enough that Hollywood is happy with it. But as I understand it, if you upload something to Frame.io, just, unless you're part of something else, some other kind of whatever, I'm not sure how Hollywood handles Frame.io with an enterprise account or something like that. But I know for, most the rest of us, if you upload something like that, it's going to get that initial scan. Anything else? Sweet. All right. I thought for sure there'd be someone on here that wanted to yell at me about that and kind of go all aggro about it, but I'm glad to see that everybody's kind of calm about it. So I'm curious from anybody on this call, and I know there's just a few of us. Oh no, there's quite a few of us on here. Has anybody experienced? I know there's the cancellation thing that I kind of mentioned about. Has anybody tried to cancel Adobe and had a nightmare type experience with that? I mean, the fact that you're probably here tells me that you probably haven't canceled Adobe, but maybe you have and you came back. And what was your experience like? If you had something really bad, I would love to hear it because I do want to pass that on to them. Nobody. All right, cool. That works for me. All right, let's see here. Let's move on then. So that covered and all talked about. Let's move on to the little demo here. So let me share my screen. Make sure I remember how to do this. No, I don't want to do multiple windows. Okay. Everybody can see Premiere, correct? Yes, we can all see Premiere. All right, great. Okay. So one thing I wanted to do just for the time we had remaining is talk about some of the new stuff that's in Premiere and Premiere Beta. Been a lot of updates recently. Some of them you may have heard of, some of them you may not have heard of, but I think all of them are pretty cool and worth your time. If you're not on the latest version, which is currently 24.5 is the latest release version, you should update to that. I will say before anybody quickly goes over to their Creative Cloud app and tries to update, there is a weird little issue that I'm seeing with 24.5. And that is that if you are, sometimes I'm seeing an issue where, let's see, I think I need to mute somebody. There we go. I am seeing a weird issue where sometimes the CTI right here, I'll hit play. Let's see if it might do it right now. No, of course, now it's working fine. Sometimes I'll hit play and the CTI will stay in its position, but the timeline will continue to play. And when I hit the spacebar, it will just jump to where you stopped. Others have reported that bug. I see it occasionally on my laptop here that I'm working on. I have yet to see it on my desktop upstairs. So anyway, I wanted to warn you that if you do update to 24.5 and you see that, just, let me know or let Adobe know. But they have been made aware of this little quirk in here. So, but anyway, but let's dive in here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the UI refresh. So there are some new UI refreshes here. You can see the darker colors for the clips here on the timeline. That's all part of a UI refresh that they've done. I really like it. I know there's some people who don't like it. If I come up to preferences and appearance, they've got this shader here now where you can really go. You can't go as light as you used to be able to go, but you can adjust it to however you like. I still like it really dark, but there's some people that for whatever reason think this is really attractive. And if you're one of those people on this call, I'd love to know that because you'd be the only one that I know. And so anyway, so you've got these darker colors. So that's part of this new UI refresh that they're doing. But let's dive into one of the cool things I wanted to show you. So you can see down here, I've got this audio clip right here, and you've got this little box here. So this audio clip is basically just some ambient sound. Let's mute the music here. I'm assuming you can all hear that. So it's just some like foresty kind of sounds. But it used to be that if you wanted to do any kind of audio fading or, transitions or anything like that, you would have to either use an effect or come up here to your effects control window and use keyframes. But now you've got this little box here, and let me make this track a little bit bigger and zoom in on it. And you've got this little box here, right here. If you drag on that, you have got these audio, kind of these little waveforms here that you can adjust your audio with. It's not really a waveform, it's be more like a curve. But as you can see, so now that basically is just your basic fade up. Let me drag it out longer, you can hear it better. But I can adjust that any way I want now. So if I drag the box, I'm using my mouse and clicking on it, and I'm dragging it up, down, and I can adjust that curve. So now you can hear it fades up a little bit quicker. I can drag it, oops, I can drag it down and kind of shape it so that it comes in really quick. You know, or I can even have it come in really late if I wanted to. Let's come even see how much we get. So something like that. So it's really adjustable. And if you use Audition, you probably know this already because it's been in there for quite a while about this kind of, but and for anybody who used to use Sony Vegas, you might remember it from that too. Not that I ever did, but I remember when it was a thing. Anyway, it's a really nice addition. I really enjoy using that much more than trying to drop in, you know, the normal kind of traditional cross dissolve effect they used to have, which had limited functionality, and then trying to use the volume, you know, adjustment with keyframes. Man, that was. I mean, it wasn't tough, but it was just sort of annoying. And this is so much quicker, and I don't have to have any keyframes. I'm literally just dragging that thing up and down. So very, very nice. And you can, I'll show you one more thing too. So I got this audio clip here. So I'm going to make a cut there and I'll show you how you can do a cross dissolve between two clips. So I've got this clip. I can grab that box now and just drag over and I'm just pulling it to the left and it's creating an automatic cross dissolve between the clips. And let's make that clip a little bit bigger and you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So scroll down a bit. And now if you watch, I can adjust that cross dissolve. So I can really kind of, I can have it fade out. So this is the music. Oh, I can unmute it. Here we go. So let's make it a little bit bigger so it's more dramatic here. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I don't really know if I like that. So I can kind of come up to something like this. So, you know, whatever you like to do, you just have more control and it's easier to adjust those things and fine tune, which I really like. So of all the things, I think that's one of my favorite things that they've done is add that in. So, okay, let's talk about auto tagging. So Premiere now allows you to auto tag stuff upon import. So if you come up to your preferences and preferences audio, first thing I'll show you is you've got this little box right here, auto tag audio clips in the timeline. So I have that turned on. You can easily turn it off if you don't want this to happen, but I like having it on. So basically whenever audio comes in, imported in, Premiere will look at it and say, okay, this is dialogue, it's music, it's sound effects, or it's ambience. So on my timeline here, I kind of have a little bit of everything. So
What's the default?
what's the default? Well, what are you saying? If you turn that off?
No, I'm saying that if you upgrade to the latest Adobe, is that on by default or off by default?
Oh, that's a good question.
Probably on is my guess.
I think it is on by default. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see down here now for this clip, which is my ambient sound. I've got this tiny little, I don't like how small the icons are, but I get the combination that they have. But you can see if I hover over it, it says ambient preset. I've got this is an interview clip with somebody. Okay, you can't hear them because I got the music too loud. Let's go into my track. Let's bring down that music. Okay, helps if you drag the right clip down.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
So I added an
Nice.
effect.
She sounds great.
Yes, yeah, she does. Here, it would help if I turned off the effect. So,
Any healthcare providers.
okay, so you can see right here, that has got this little talking head down here, and if I click on that little talking head, you can see it is set up for dialogue. If I hover over it correctly, it'll say dialogue. There it is. And if I click on dialogue or click on that little head, it'll open up my essential sound panel, and it'll do that for any of the different categories. If you've got music, you know, sound effects, whatever, clicking on that will open up the sound panel immediately so that you can start fine tuning it, you know, cleaning it up, doing whatever you want to do to it. So it's just sort of a shortcut to getting there. The other thing I'll show is as you all heard, there's a lot of reverb on that effect. If I get rid of this effect, so I put an effect on there just to show, if I get rid of that effect, that studio reverb effect, then, or if actually, let me put it back on there. If I click on the effects tab in there, that's something new that they've added as well. It'll open up the effects controls and allow you to do things. Let me scroll back here, show you. So like this particular clip right here, which is just that ambient sound, you can see, you know, I can click on the effects. There should be no effect on that, but it sounds like there is something on there. Oh, it's the thing underneath it. That's what it is. Okay. So there's nothing there. So you see the effects badge isn't lit up, but if I come and add an effect, so let's just say I add a hard limiter on it, just because, why not? You can see immediately after I add it, it lights that up. So you can tell at a glance now which clips have an effect added to it and which ones don't. And by clicking on that, it'll immediately open up your effects controls window and you can change the parameters of whatever effect, you know, you need to change. So, so that's the effects badge and the new little auto tagging. The other thing I kind of wanted to quickly show was, and this is kind of a minor thing, but it's kind of one of those things that you're like, I wonder why they didn't do this sooner. So waveforms. So it used to be that once you got to a certain point with sizing up your timeline, the waveforms and the audio or the video clips, you would lose the waveforms if you size them too small. Well, now you can size them up as small as you want and you still have waveform. So if you need to really consolidate up your tracks, but you don't want to lose that ability to see the waveforms there to make your edits and define things, you can do that now and make them as small as you want or as big as you want, but you'll always have a waveform there. So kind of a nice little feature there. Okay, last thing, and then I want to move to the beta. Let me go here. So let's come up to preferences, labels. So they have, in keeping with the new color palette, all the darker colors, they've come up with all new label colors. You can see they're all a little bit darker. But what I really like about all this is, I mean, you can change any of these if you're not happy with them. You can click on them, you know, adjust to whatever color you want, and you know, make your colorize to your heart's desire. And you've got all your defaults for the different things over here. But you can, down here, you've got these presets now. So if you really, really like those old Premiere colors, who doesn't? You can go to Classic, and boom, there they are. You can relive the old horsey Premiere days with all those wonderful colors. Longtime Premiere users will know what I'm talking about when I say horsey. And then they've got this vibrant selection, which makes me think of like Easter morning at my house with the Easter eggs and all this other stuff for my kids. But what I really like is this editorial one. So if I click on editorial, you can see that it's created, it's got vibrant colors, but it's created these categories for all the different colors: video, audio dialogue, graphics, subtitles, stock footage, captions. And, you know, it's basically kind of come up with all these things that you would normally use on a project and given them these colors. You can, again, customize them if you don't like them, but it sort of created that template automatically, which I think is really, really nice. And if you do customize them, you have the ability to save that preset, save it someplace. And then if you go work on somebody else's computer, you can easily right here import that preset in, or if you see somebody else's preset and you go, dude, your labels are the best, give me that preset. Boom, give me that preset file, and you can import it in right here. You know,
what if you upgrade? Does it automatically change all the colors, or does it keep the colors from your previous session and only when you import new footage or start a new?
So yeah, so good question. So I believe it saves the preset. If you make changes in here and don't save the preset, I believe it will add that to your preferences, and then that preference file will sort of go, as long as you have that preference file on your system. You know, when you upgrade Premiere from, you know, like right now we're at 24. So when 25 comes out at the end of the year, when they at max, that's sort of like the big upgrade. And when you do that upgrade, it will say, do you want to import the preferences from, you know, whatever the last version of Premiere was? If you choose to keep those and pull from those, it will generally look at those and import them in. And so all that should stay. But, you know, if you want to just sort of have that backup someplace else, you know, that's where I would say it's better to save it and have that just in case something happens. If something, you know, the first thing they always tell you to do when there's a problem with Premiere is get rid of your media cache and get rid of your preferences. Because if the preferences get corrupted, that can really impact what you're doing inside Premiere. And so they always tell you to wipe that clean. So if you create a preset of all these labels that you really, really like and you want to keep and use, I would say save it somewhere, you know, and don't rely on the preference file being there for you all the time. Because if something happens to those preferences, you're going to lose it.
I wasn't thinking so much of the preferences, but if you upgrade to the latest
Mhm.
and you start working on a existing project, will the colors change in that existing project?
If you update, I'm a little confused. If you update to the latest, which this is 24.5.
Right, but you said that, you know, going back to the original thing where you start with these colors, you said, here's the new color palette.
Right.
If you upgrade to the new 24.5,
Yes.
will an existing project that you're working on change colors as well?
Oh, okay. I see. If you've created custom label colors.
No, if you did nothing, you just had stock colors, you just use
Yes.
whatever Adobe was using.
Yes.
You upgrade, you're saying that all the colors will change.
Yes. All the colors will change. If you
Okay.
don't have custom labels already created, sorry, Bob. If it's the fish sandwich, it's just wreaking havoc with me right now.
Too
Yeah.
much mercury.
If yes, it will default to all these new colors if you don't have something specifically set up.
Okay.
So
it will look different.
yes, yeah. Once you open this version up, you're going to notice things look, you know, and there've been a lot of people online who, you know, freak out about it, you know, like, oh my gosh, this looks totally different. I don't like it. And it's like, you know, how do I go back? It's like, well, then roll back to the last version, you know, because it's kind of baked in. Or you can just, you know, if the label colors are the things you don't like, then just roll that back. So, you know, but yeah, editors are a weird bunch. We tend to get like, so, you know, for our whole job is to update and change things, but yet you change anything in our software and it's like, oh my gosh, you've just completely ruined our world. It's like, I kind of, that must be how our clients feel when we change their projects and their footage without them giving us any notes. It's like, what are you doing? Sorry, trying to help you.
Muscle memory doesn't like change.
No, and I, you know, listen, I totally get that. I'm a slave. I'm a creature of habit. You know, so anyway, okay. So I think that covers everything I want to talk about in 24.5. I'm going to open up the beta now. So let me stop sharing my screen here real quick. And let me open up the beta version of Premiere, but I'm going to close out this one first. You cannot minimize when you are recording the meeting. Got it. Okay. Thanks, Zoom. Premiere Pro beta. So while this is booting up, just real quick, I wanted to say, if you're not using the beta version of Premiere, totally get that. I use the beta version, you know, I open it up and test out new features and like to poke around and play with stuff in it. I've actually used it to do real world projects. I'd say about 2 or 3 times a year. I'll roll the dice and go, okay, let's do this one in beta. Usually because there's a feature in there that I want to play with. And so I'll do that. And I've only had it bite me one time where I couldn't export out. And so that was a bit of a problem. But right now in beta, if I did something in beta, I can open that project up in the release version. So it's not really that big of an issue. But yeah, you should check out the beta and play with it because there is a lot of really cool stuff there, as I'm about to show you, and it's fun to kind of see what's coming and what's new. So all right, so I got 3 things to show you. So this is, I believe, 24.6. Now, because I think that's the current beta release. Now, just know that some of the stuff that I'm showing you today is in that beta, but that doesn't mean that when 24.6 comes out, it will be in 24.6. It is things that they are working on. So, and if you come in the beta and you click on this little beaker up here, you can see what's new and a lot of things they're working on and the development stuff. And it's kind of fun to test this stuff out. And like I said, sometimes if the release version isn't quite working for you, there's an issue in it. I've gone over to the beta and found that, you know, that bug or that tweak has been fixed and I can get by and I can do the work I need to do in the beta. So and they can live, you know, together in harmony on your system. So it's not a big deal.
Eric, I think you need to share your screen again.
Oh, that would probably be helpful, wouldn't
Womp,
it?
womp.
All right, here we go. Now you see it. Oh,
there we go. Where's that beaker?
I don't think the beaker's right up here.
I got you. Thank you.
I don't know that I turned on audio, and I'm going to need audio. So hold on. Let me share my screen one more time. Sorry. I got to click it's on by default. Okay, good. One of these years, we've been using Zoom for like 4 years. You think we'd all know it by now and like have this thing down pat. And yet every once in a while, Zoom still confuses me. Okay. first thing I want to show you. So here's the beta version. You can see there's some new changes to the UI again. They're still tweaking some stuff, and I think by the time the 24 or 25 comes out at the end of the year, I think we're going to have a lot of this stuff will probably be in there. And I really like what they're doing to the UI. I think it's modernizing it, making it look better. So that's always a good thing. But again, Beaker's up here. But what I want to show you right now is it's under here. It's called the properties panel. So for those of you who use After Effects a lot, you probably know they created a properties panel inside After Effects, and it's this sort of panel that allows you to quickly see the properties of any clip that you're working with or clips, and make adjustments in it. And they're starting to do that with Premiere. Now, I'm going to tell you right at the start that this panel is in early development. So they are actively asking for feedback. And so if you have feedback, either email it to me or email it to me and I will pass it along to them, or go to their beta forum and pass it along to them. But they are asking, they want to hear what users want for this, because I don't know this for a fact, but my guess would be is that this panel is going to replace the effects control panel at some point, and you'll see why in just a second. So, okay, so here is your properties panel. So I'm just going to kind of hover it right here for now. So first thing I'll show you is, let's say I've got this clip right here. This clip is shot 4K, but I've got a 1080 timeline. So in here, I can choose fill frame or fit to frame. You might remember these from right-clicking and having scale to frame size,
yeah.
or set to frame size. Now, just as a reminder for folks that don't know, scale to frame size is the one you usually don't want to use. And that would be over here in your properties panel. It would be the fill frame, would be that one. And over here, you have the set to frame size. That's the one you usually want to use. And I'll show you in a second why. And over here, you have the fill to frame. And so I'm going to click on that. And you can see it reduced the scale of it to 50%. And it filled the frame here in my program monitor. So basically, it's taking that 4K image and shrinking it down to fit your frame, but it's not rescaling or resizing it, which is what the other one does. So if I click undo, I'm going to click on the other tab here, fill frame. You'll notice did I click on the wrong one? Oh no, sorry, I got confused. Scale to frame size will shrink it down and leave the scale at 100%. That's the one you don't want to use.
You are correct.
This one, the fill frame. So if I was shooting 4K here, but I was shooting UHD 4K, so it's 16:9. If I was shooting true 4K, 4096, this would fill the frame but leave the black bars. Oh no, this would fill the frame. The other one, fit to frame, would leave the black bars at the top and the bottom. So it would sort of take that image and fill it, or fit it to the frame, whereas the other one will fill the frame. So if you're shooting 4K footage that's not 16:9, the fill frame would be the one you want to use, and the fit to frame is the one if you're shooting 16:9 in a 1080 timeline or whatever. So sorry, that got a little confusing. And so if you have questions, feel free to ask me now and I will clarify that. All right, so, okay, I'm seeing some questions. John, are all the colored labels changed colors, right? I think Mark answered that question, so thank you, Mark, for that. But here's the cool thing about the property panel. So I've got this B-roll clip. I'm going to use the property panel here, and I'm going to scale it down, and I'm going to move it over to her side here. All right, so I got one clip there. Let's take the second clip. And I'm going to scale it down using the property panel. I'm going to drag it actually over here so I can, and then I'm going to come over here and just grab that clip and move it. Let's scale it down a little bit more here. Okay, so I've got these two clips. They're playing off to the side. Now,
Calderma is on a mission to help educate.
So if for some reason, the client said, you know what, we want both those clips on the other side of the frame. Normally, you would have to move them individually. But with this new properties panel, I can select both, and then using my position, I can move them at the same time. and I can keep them grouped together. So if you have a group of things that you all need to move at one time, the properties panel will allow you to do that. And you can change the anchor point, the scale. I can adjust the scale on both of them. And I can do that all together, or the opacity, whatever you need to do. So that's one nice thing about the property panels, is that it allows you to have multiple items and move them, size them, whatever you need to do all together if you need to do that. Because that's happened to me before, where I've got 3 or 4 things in a graphic layout and they all need to get smaller for whatever reason, or bigger or whatever. And I have to go through and do them all individually. Now I can just sort of highlight them all and do them all at the same time. So I've got a couple other things here to show you. So
what about keyframes on that, so that you wanted to fade in a group?
Yes, so you can see you've got the stopwatch here, so you can toggle. So like let's highlight both of these. So let's do our opacity here is at 100. So well, you know what, it won't let me keyframe. Again, work in progress. Currently you can't keyframe multiple items at the same time. So
okay, that was basically my question.
yeah, you can do it individually, but it's not letting you do it as a group. But that would be a really good feature, and I will bring that up to them. So some other things about this panel, let's look here. So adjust speed. So if you click on that, it brings up the clip speed duration, just a kind of a shortcut to that. If I come up here, I can adjust the color, and that will automatically open up Lumetri and let me start adjusting that. Open advanced, edit effect controls. That just basically sends you the ECP, the effects control panel. And then you've got browse effects and transitions, browse graphic templates, browse Adobe stock audio. So you can, that just opens up the essential sound panel, or captions and graphics panel, central graphics panel to look at things. So again, shortcuts to get to places are built into it. So again, it's still a work in progress. This is sort of like beta version 0.5. So, if you have ideas of things that you think should be in it, then let me know or tell Adobe. The one thing that I really would like to see in it is the ability to, like on a project, I know I'm going to add Lumetri, probably a hard limiter, and then maybe, some other kind of effect, on things, those 3 things. I want to be able to load those effects into this properties panel. And then as I go from clip to clip, I can choose to turn them on, turn them off, because maybe I don't need a hard limiter on some clips, but I know I'm going to add Lumetri to everything. And I can just turn them on right there and then have all those adjustments and, kind of go from clip to clip like that. I know that you can create presets to do all that kind of stuff, but I would like it just to be able to, have something like where I could just load those in here so that those controls are all right there. So, okay, so that's property panel. Let's go to the essential sound panel, which is something that came up. Where is essential sound panel? Audio. Come on, eyes don't fail me now. There it is. All right, so I don't know how many people really use the essential sound panel for oops.
Oh.
Nope, we're back. How many people use this to find music or sound effects or things like that? I usually have other sources for that, but one thing that they have added in this current version is like a ton of free sound effects, and I think some free music as well.
Nice.
So if you click on the sound effects button, you can see you've got music, sound effects. So click on sound effects. You've got filters, you've got premium and free. Just click on the free thing. And then boom, you have all of these, and you can filter it and search for something if you want to look for something in particular. But you've got, how many is that? 11,667 results. That's 11,000 free sound effect clips for you. And the nice thing about the way this is set up is you can play these here in this panel and it will sync up with your timeline. So if I click play, I don't know that a wrestling crowd is going to be exactly what I want for this first clip, but hey, I don't know. Maybe let's check it out. Yeah.
That works. I hate bread. I hate that bread. Ooh, all those carbs.
So, you've got all these different sound effects here. Electric whoosh. Let's hear that. Oop. Oop, I got to play it here. Sorry. Let's do that. Yeah, that
That's
fit.
cool. I like
Yeah.
that effect. That's great.
So, but anyway, you have got 11,000 different sound effects here. What did this one say? Angel Walls. All right, I gotta hear this one.
I think that's Wales.
Whales. Thank you. Eyes are just, yeah. My glasses are a little smudged. The kids were playing with them this morning. Woodspin, scraping whirs. All right. Anyway, you get the gist. You've got almost, I'll say almost 12,000 sound effects. We'll round up because why not? But they're all free. And like I said, if you come over to music, choose free. Here's a whole bunch of other music tracks for you. That was not too bad.
That's not
And
bad at all.
to get it on there, all you have to do is let's get rid of this track, and you just I think you have to import it in, add the project. Sorry, got to add it to the project, and then you can drag it down. So it's in this bin right here. So anyway, that is all that's in the Essential Sound panel. So again, this is in beta. If you're on 24.5 and you open it up and you don't see this stuff, it's because it's in beta. So it will hopefully be coming soon. I don't know when they'll add all this into Premiere, but either way, it's another good resource. I don't know about you. I actually posted on Twitter about this, about sound effects recently. I'm doing a short film, editing a short film, and I needed a sound of somebody getting punched, which I mostly edit corporate stuff. Not a lot of punching going on in corporate videos. Behind the scenes maybe, but not in front of the camera. And so I needed a sound effect to do that. And I had this massive, I just collect all these sound effects libraries. Anybody who sends me one or gives me access to one for either nothing or little amounts of money, I buy. And sure enough, in the thousands of clips, I found a guy getting kicked in the face. And I'm like, perfect, that's exactly what I need. So you never have too many sound effects. You never know when you might need something. So it's nice to have this in your arsenal. Okay. Last thing I'm going to show you is, let me go back to my view laptop here. Let's see, I see a chat question. The sounds are free. Are those usable for commercial purposes? Yes. As far as I understand, the license does allow you to use them for commercial purposes, as I understand it. So, all right. Last thing here. Let's go to, I'm going to I'll close this project out. Close project. Let me get rid of that. Don't save. So I'm going to create a new project. And this is new as well. This is a new project dialog box. So it used to be, if you created a new project, you had to, the screen, it took you to that import screen, or, you had everything was kind of all over the place. Everything now is in this one little dialog box. Again, this is still sort of work in development. So if you have ideas, things you'd like to see, let Adobe know. But it's so simple now. Your project name goes here, where you want to save it. What I recommend, as you longtime Premiere people or user group members know, create a folder for every project, put everything in that folder. Be organized, people. I hate opening projects and there's footage everywhere, on the desktop, on this drive, on that drive, in this folder, on that folder, spread across your entire system. Come on, people, be organized. You're editors, for crying out loud. Anyway, side tangent. So you can create the folder where you want to save everything. If you want to use a template, now Adobe has, these templates are in the shipping version right now, but they put them right here. You have the social media template, standard template, broadcast template. They're really nice because they create bins for you that are sort of labeled for certain things and kind of give you a starting point if you want to have a template to work from. Nice. I have my own system that I use, so I don't usually use these, but they are great if you want to use those and kind of get started and try to get yourself organized. So, and you can add a template here if you created one in a previous version of Premiere, or you can open your template folder and pull from there. You also, what I like here is the skip import mode. There's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, don't like the new import tab. Totally understand, totally get that. I have grown to like it, but it still does not let you import like AI files, like Illustrator files for some reason. There's some other things that don't come up in it. And so you have to import those the old fashioned way. I totally get that they kind of did this version 1.0 of that import tab and then never, I think they might have done like a 0.5 update to it with a few things, improvements, but they haven't really done it right yet, in my opinion. So if you don't like using that, you can just click this and it'll take you past it. The gear here will open up all of your settings. So this is nice. This is all stuff that used to be kind of hidden, and you had to access once you got the project open, but now you can set all this up right from the get-go, which is basically how you want to, if you want to use GPU acceleration, your color settings, scratch disks, you can set all of those here. And then your ingest settings, if you're going to want to ingest footage into your project and, and copy it, or if you just want to ingest it or copy it, or, whatever you want to do. So all of that is listed right up front, right here. So we'll just click OK. But then after you choose all that, you just click create, and then boom, you're right into your project and you can start editing the way you used to. Super, super simple. Not so convoluted as it used to be. I think that's all that I have. I just thought about something I was going to show you all, and I don't remember now, but it was in the beta and I'm totally blanking on what it was. It was something else that I just kind of remembered. Oh yeah, I should show them that now. And I don't remember. So, oh, I know this is one thing I did want to quickly talk about. So they have super simplified these sequence presets now. For those of you, excuse me, long-term Premiere users, you remember whenever you would see this new sequence box, it was a cluster of and cameras and things that didn't even exist anymore or whatever. They have super simplified this now to where it's basically broadcast, and you've got all the different broadcast formats. HD, social media formats are all right there. You've got your 4x5, 9x16, 1x1, UHD, true 4K, or HDR, UHD 4K, and then some of the legacy stuff is right here. If you really miss all those camera formats, I mean, come on, who is not shooting with ABC Intra nowadays, or even DV? Come on, who missed those days? All those things are there in the legacy folder, but super simple now to just pick one of these and get going.
Nice.
The other thing that I'll show you real quick, and this is actually, I think that what I just showed you is in the release version now. And I know this is too, but I'm doing more social media content. And I don't know how many people know this, but there is a vertical workspace doing social media. So if I click on vertical,
Wow.
you can now switch over to, now I have got a 1080 clip here, but if I had a 9x16 clip, you can see it sets up my program monitor for 9x16.
Wow.
And so you can work this way now. So, and you can see the property perfectly embedded there. So, anyway, that is a handy thing. As I've been doing more social media stuff, I use this workspace now, because it's great just to click over and be able to see things that way. So again, that is in the shipping version. It is in 24.5 out now. So feel free to use that for all your social media fun.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah.
As you shoot those, are you if you shoot it, with irregular video, just horizontal, and protect for it, does the template punch in automatically for that centered part? Can you tell it where to go?
So yes. So well, yes. So normally what I do, so Mark, you're perfect to talk about this with, because you and I went and shot all those videos that we shot for Neurocrine. Remember when my camera went down? That fun.
Oh yeah, lovely memories.
Good times. So the ask on that was to shoot everything. They needed 3 versions of it, essentially. They needed the 16:9 version for YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And then they wanted 4x5 and 9x16 for social media. And so what I basically do at that point is I just create the 16:9 version, and then I use the auto reframe inside Premiere to create the other versions.
Ah, okay.
And what Premiere will do is it uses its AI, Sensei, whatever, to look for faces, and it will frame automatically for those faces and wherever the action is, and hold on that. Now it doesn't always get it 100% right. So a lot of times I have to go in and sort of tweak it and correct it. Which a lot of times it does get it right, but sometimes they're just a little off, or there's a little move or something like that. The AI doesn't get it quite right. And so I can go in and just tweak it very easily. But then that's it. And if I have graphics that I've created inside of Premiere using the graphic tool inside Premiere, it will automatically resize those graphics to fit
wow.
in that format as well.
That's cool.
As I use Premiere Composer a lot, though, that's where it kind of hits a speed bump, because it can't resize the Premiere Composer stuff. The Premiere Composer files are MOGRTs essentially that are set for
right.
a specific resolution and aspect ratio, and so
Sure,
those
sure.
kind of get wonky. But if I know ahead of time what I'm going to be dealing with, I tend to maybe not use those as much as I need to, and then I just do everything inside Premiere. So,
Okay. Thanks.
so yeah, if you do a lot of social media stuff, having that auto reframe is a good first step. I like I said, it's not going to get you across the finish line all the time, but it does save you a ton of time, and it will automatically create those things. The other thing too is that for whatever reason, and I don't like this, is that like if you do 9:6 or 9:16, it doesn't default to 1080 by 1920. It defaults to something a little smaller than that. So I end up going into the sequence settings and changing that, after the fact, and then it sort of resizes everything for that. So yeah, just something to kind of keep on.
Okay.
Most clients don't care, because if you're looking at it, on your phone here,
Right.
1920 by 1080 or 1080 by 1920 doesn't make a difference. Instagram
Right.
doesn't care. The smaller size is usually fine. And I
Okay.
think that's maybe why Adobe does that. So, okay, what time is it? 12:53. I did all that in less than an hour. Sweet. Any other questions before we wrap up for the day here? And everybody's got to get back to work, including myself.
Mhm.
Any idea when the next Premiere meeting might be, instead of a surprise the day before?
Well, to be honest with you, so I do have one thing to announce too. So yes, the planning right now is I have I'm working with I've talked to Michael Wood from Studio Media Pros, and we're talking about planning a meeting with an editor from LA to present. Now that could be sort of the next group meeting as a joint meeting, or it may be later down the road, in which case then I'll have a meeting probably sometime in July to announce. So yes, I know this was short notice. The plan was that I was originally going to record this meeting and then just post it up with all the new features and some other stuff. But I felt like with the terms of service that I should allow for any kind of debate or questions or whatever. And so I thought, you know what? Let's try to do this and see if it works. And I know I know it was super short notice, but that's why I did it at noon, because I thought, well, most people are eating lunch and probably looking at Facebook or whatever else they look at around noon anyway. So why not just hang out with us? And so, but yes, I will be more noticed next time. The last thing I want to say too is for those people who might be on this call who heard about this meeting via Meetup, our page on Meetup is going away. I'm going to transition it over to a different group page or site, I should say, partly because Meetup is going from basically $200 a year to whatever 175 plus 175 is. I didn't get into this for the math, so somebody smarter than me can tell you what that is. Was that 350?
Mm-hmm.
Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Got some skills. So yeah, $150 jump per year. Yeah, sorry, you're not giving me anything better for that. I gotta go. So I was willing to stomach the 200, but I can't do that. So our Meetup subscription is up in the middle of July. So look for an announcement in the next couple of weeks of where we'll be moving to. We'll still have the Facebook page, still keep that going, because Mark Zuckerberg has so much money that he's not charging for use right now. So God bless him. So we'll still be there. Thank you all for spending your lunchtime with us. I really appreciate it. I'm going to have this meeting up and on the YouTube page, probably, I don't know, by the end of the week. So you can look for it there if you want to relive anything. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, if you have any questions about the terms of service or any of the stuff we showed today, improvements you'd like to see on anything, please let me know. Other than that, I thank you all so very much for spending your time. And now there's Euro Soccer's turn on right now. I'll be watching that. So
gotta
finish
go.
this,
Okay.
go back to work and watch some soccer.
See ya.
See you all next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.